Vamos a empezar. Muchas gracias por su asistencia. Buenos días a todos. La verdad detrás del plástico. Una verdad que necesitas saber ya. Es el título de esta conferencia. Nuestros ponentes vienen de Nicaragua y de Costa Rica haciendo este tipo de evento, dándonos a conocer información que muchos desconocemos. Problemas de salud, problemas ambientales por la contaminación que el plástico puede hacer. Y hoy van a saber cosas que muchos de ustedes no saben y esperamos que ese sea el beneficio de estar aquí sentados y acompañándonos. Vamos a tener a 4 ponencias un poco distintas de la vida marina, de la naturaleza, desde la salud. Y les pedimos a las personas que no entiendan bien el inglés, poder pedir un aparato de traducción simultánea atrás. Los que lo entienden, vamos a tener una sesión de preguntas y respuestas al final de las 4 ponencias donde podemos articular muy bien este mensaje. The Plastic Pollution Coalition, la coalición de la polución del plástico, es la organización que nuestros 4 invitados representan hoy. Y van a estar, creo que muy encantados cuando salgamos de aquí con la nueva información que van a adquirir.
Buenos días. Thank you so much for having us in your beautiful country, and thank you for joining us on stage today. Thank you for coming and hearing what we have to say. We come to you with the voices of over 2 million people from around the world, members of the Plastic Pollution Coalition. We have members on every continent, in most of the countries around the world. We have young people, old people, people of all races, people of all economic classes. Plastic pollution is a problem that affects us all, and that's what we're here to speak about. I want to say to you something very important before we start. We're not the anti-plastic coalition. Plastic has many beautiful uses. Plastic has been with us for about 100 years. Plastic is an economic material. It makes our lives easier. It is colorful. Plastic is great. There are uses of plastic that are a major problem and have become a major problem for society in the last 10 or 15 years. And that's what we're here to speak. And just to illustrate my point even further, I'll show you exactly what I mean. These were the items I used to love to pick up traveling when I was younger and bring for my kids. In my hotel room, there were about 15 of these sitting on a counter. They're individually wrapped plastic items for individual use. There is no recycling bin in my bathroom in the hotel. And I counted about 15 of them. I brought them over here for you to see. So if the hotel has 300 rooms, and say they're occupied 50% of the time, 150 rooms will have about 10 of these items every day, 365 days a year. This is a lot of plastic to be used and thrown away. And it doesn't recycle, and it has no place to go. These little plastic comb and toothbrush, I think, and this little sewing kit that has plastic in it and a plastic packaging will live over 450 years. They will live long after I'm born and gone, my children, my grandchildren. These are the uses of plastic we need to be careful about, because this is a material that does not go away, ever. It will stay with us. It will stay on this planet. So before we get started, I wanted to share with you a film, a brief clip of a film that began my journey on the road of learning and talking about plastic pollution. This film is a National Geographic production that I worked on a few years ago, and it told the story of a mother and a child in a faraway island. The mother and the child are an albatross bird and her baby. Albatross birds are majestic. They have a wingspan of about 6 meters. They're beautiful. And they live about as far from civilization as you can imagine. And I hope the translation follows the film so you can tell what the story is about. But it's a story that touched my heart and my life has never been the same. So let's watch together the clip.
If our small daily actions can add up to such big damage, then changing what we do in small, easy ways can and will take the planet in a positive direction. That's the kind of thinking it'll take to reverse another kind of pollution that's plaguing our seas and waterways. You want a clue? For a young albatross, the first year of life is full of waiting. Waiting for parents to bring back food. Waiting to grow big and strong enough to wander the seas and fend for themselves. But lately, for growing numbers of chicks, those moments never arrive.
You see skeletons, and in the middle of a chick, their stomach is full of all sorts of plastic. The first thing you think of is how there's no food in here. There's no room for food.
To Michelle Hester and her colleague, Hannah Nevins, what you can find inside a seabird is as startling as it is disturbing.
There's a white piece. Oh, look at that. Pacifier. Lots of fishing line. And then there's also what we call industrial plastic, which are the pellets that start the whole process. If you want to make a toy soldier, you'll order pellets. And those look almost exactly like fish eggs.
Which is why albatross parents scoop them up and bring them home to feed their young. For the chicks, it's an unhappy meal.
If their stomach is full of plastic, then it's displacing water, so they might be dying of dehydration. Or it's just malnutrition. It's just simply that they can't get enough food and nutrients. What is shocking to me is that these very experienced albatross parents, they can live 60 years plus, are repeatedly recognizing plastic as a source of food. The mystery is that these birds don't feed on the island.
So where is all this plastic coming from? It's exactly that question that Charles Moore was prompted to ask on a voyage across the Pacific. The journey changed his life. Ordinarily, sailors steer clear of the region they call the North Pacific Gyre. Bounded by a massive system of clockwise currents, it sits under a near-permanent high-pressure system.
It took us a week to cross that area. And during the voyage, I came out on deck on a regular basis, surveyed the horizon, and was surprised that every time I saw trash.
Halfway between Hawaii and the mainland, Moore had motored into the middle of a twice Texas-sized collection zone for floating debris.
Circulating winds draw the debris from around the Pacific Rim, and they bring it into the center, so you get a toilet bowl effect, but there's no exit. The material there may be there since the dawn of the plastic era. This gyre is an enormous area, and if that's as contaminated as the part that I crossed, then we've got a huge problem.
After consulting with scientists, he returns to measure systematically the volume of plastic in this stretch of ocean. Moore drags through the sea a fine mesh trawl net, the kind scientists use to collect plankton.
And when we deployed that net and retrieved it,
Very good.
and saw the soup of plastic that was in there, it was a complete shock. Turned out there was less plankton than plastic. The ocean had become a plastic soup. These pieces never go away.
It is fair to say this film changed my life. In all of our lives, there are moments that we can remember, and everything changed after that. For me, it was working on this film. I've never been an environmentalist. I'm not a scientist. Professionally, I'm a business person. I started and ran businesses, high-tech businesses. I'm a mom. I have 2 children. And I related to the story of this mom who lovingly fed her baby with the most beautiful pieces of plankton that she thought was something that was food. Colorful, brilliant, bright. She fed her baby and she loved her baby to death. I cried after I saw this story. And you know what? I cry often when I see it again. It always touches me the same way. It's not just about the birds. It's the poignant fact that our lifestyle affects the lives of these beautiful, majestic animals so far away from us. And so, as I started thinking about this, I realized it's upon me, now that I know the truth, to share it with others. And my journey began 6 years ago, and this is why I'm here today with you. What happened after the film is we created a small team to reach out to others and begin to share the story about the albatross bird. quickly we found out it's not just about the albatross part. Let's see. This is the natural habitat of the albatross bird on the Midway Island. Look at what that bird lives in. But let's look at the next slide. This is the stomach of the bird. Do you recognize some of these items inside? I do. They could have come from my home. Lighters, bottle caps, straws very often. The whole island is littered with them. And as you could have seen from the film, this island is as far away from civilization as possible. Every year, about 200,000 of these birds never reach maturity. They die from hunger and thirst. But let's look here. This is 5 minutes worth of trash collected on the beach in the Galapagos Islands, nowhere near the Midway Atoll. Let's look at the next slide. This is in Hawaii. Hawaii is very well known as one of the most beautiful places in the earth where people go to relax. This beach was never known. It never had the fame it has today. Camilo Beach today has the reputation of being one of the most polluted beaches in Hawaii. These are some other pictures from around the world. Down there on the bottom is a river of plastic floating through Manila. Up there is Puerto Rico. On the left-hand side is the Caribbean beach. The pictures began to come in very, very fast. What my team quickly realized is that what we were observing on the Midway Island was just one small instantiation of what's going on around the world. Plastic pollution was everywhere, and I mean everywhere. That's a cumulative slide. So let's take a look at what we see here. The country where I was born, Bulgaria, Vacha Dam. Bulgaria is a small country in Eastern Europe. I left about 25 years ago. That dam didn't look like it when I lived there. It is now completely trashed with plastic. Plastic, single-use and disposable plastic. On the right-hand corner is the LA River, which connects LA, which floats from Los Angeles to the ocean. This collection of plastic trash that you see is a collection of a day's worth of use of plastic in the city of LA. Millions of dollars have been spent by the municipality of LA to deal with this. They have capturing mechanisms, very expensive, very complicated systems to pick up that trash and take it away and recycle it. It doesn't help. Every day that load looks the same. In the upper right-hand corner is a mountain of styrofoam trash that was left in Haiti after our humanitarian mission there. Good intentions, this plastic would live forever on Haiti. In the middle is something that really shocked me, and I thought I could never be shocked by plastic pollution again. Last year, my organization put together a conference called Great Pacific Garbage Patch, the Global Plastic Pollution Crisis. And the point of this was the plastic pollution crisis was around the world. As we were preparing for the conference, I got a report from a veterinarian who lives in the United Arab Emirates, a son and father, a team. And they said, you keep talking about the ocean animals, but did you know that plastic pollution is killing the desert animals as well, nomadic animals, as well as cattle? And he sent me pictures that were so disturbing that I only chose to share one with you. It's a camel dying in a field of plastic with its stomach full of plastic bags. So, if plastic is everywhere, what about the plastic in our food? What became really interesting is the question, if plastic reaches the animals and kills them in the way that we know, if it trashes our beaches, if it truly is surrounding us everywhere, could it possibly have some other impacts? And we grew to find out that there are health impacts with plastic that we never knew about before. One of the reasons Nancy Burmeyer is here, and I can't see her right now, there she is because the Breast Cancer Fund, the organization she represents, is a member of our coalition. The Breast Cancer Fund has done a number of studies, mostly in the United States, but we are sharing these results with you today, that link some of the chemicals used in plastic production to breast cancer. And there is growing evidence in the United States that breast cancer and many other diseases that are on the rise have an environmental cause. So the question for us was, how do these chemicals connect to plastics? And I will tell you, the answer is simple. Plastic is used for just about everything right now. A lot of times it's used for food containers. A lot of times it's used for cans, like these here that I'm sure are familiar to you. These cans are not food in the United States. I mean, you can see them in your supermarkets everywhere. The lining inside these cans is produced by using special chemicals that make it useful, that make it be preserving of the food that it carries. The bubbles that you see up there, that's a view of a refrigerator. I'll bet your refrigerators look very similar to this. Most of the liquids in the United States come in plastic containers now, in these bottles. And the plastic containers in the upper right-hand corner are familiar to everyone. Who doesn't have them? You know, we use them to store our food, we heat them. What we found out is that the chemicals that are used to make plastic containers so good for us, transparent, rigid, malleable, are actually chemicals that don't bond very well with plastic. So during prolonged use, or if you reheat your food in these containers, they leach into your food. When they leach into your food is now a toxic cocktail that contains all sorts of different chemicals that your body was never intended to take. So, Jake, can you? In the United States and in many countries around the world, babies drink formula out of bottles like this. I fed my babies with formula out of bottles like this. I didn't know at the time that these bottles are made with a chemical called bisphenol A. Bisphenol A is a very well-known hormonal disruptor, and Nancy will talk about this. In many countries around the world, this material is now outlawed for use in baby products and children's products. So the real question began with all these disturbing facts, with all the knowledge we have about plastic and how it's used and so widely. How did we get there? I mean, plastic is a material that has been known to us for about 100 years. In many instances, plastic was invented to replace natural materials like cork, like silk. Materials that were expensive, that were natural resources that could be depleted, and plastic was cheap. It was a great replacement for this. About 100 years ago, there was nothing wrong with it. In 1955, there were so many manufacturing facilities for plastics that the plastics industry began to look for other ways to bring plastic into our lives. And so what they did is they launched a campaign to describe the disposable lifestyle. And the letters you can't read say huge marketing. So disposable lifestyle became something that everybody in the United States would aspire to. It promised housewives an easier life if she would put all the dinner in plastic containers on the table, on a plastic tablecloth, and serve with plastic utensils. At the end of the dinner, you just collect it and throw it away. So no effort, no wash. If the husband wears nylon shirt, then you don't ever press it, no problem, you know? Life is easier all around. The better off you were, then the easier it is to throw stuff away. And in fact, why bother with washing and reusing? You can afford to throw things away. Somehow, in our lives, since 1955 until now, being able to throw stuff away became symbolic of how well we are, how economically well we are. I don't know how crazy this sounds to you, but it sounds really crazy to me. To me, what's beautiful is this. It's a beautiful glass bottle. It preserves the drink inside cold and tasty. It can be reused many, many times. When you melt this down, you can make another bottle. It is beautiful. It's a beautiful design also, too. What is really bad is a bottle that you use once and you throw away. Do you know that when you throw away a plastic bottle, it does not ever recycle into another plastic bottle? It recycles into another plastic material, which is of lower grade, but never another plastic bottle. So what really has begun to happen is the plastics industry, encouraged by enthusiastic consumer response, began pumping all sorts of plastic products on the market. From plastic utensils to plastic straws to plastic pink flamingos that were very popular in the United States in every suburban home, to just plastic everything. There was no end-of-life plan for all of these plastic products. There never was. What has been offered to us as a solution, for the most part, is recycling. And I just want to mention a word about recycling so you understand what we're talking about here. Recycling is great for paper and metal, for many other materials. When it comes to plastic, recycling essentially changes plastic from one material into another. And that means that every time you use plastic bottle, plastic utensils, plastic anything, and you recycle it, you continue to add to the problem of material that never goes away. It just changes from one kind of plastic to another. It doesn't go away. So when you think that you're doing the right thing by recycling with plastic, you're not. In the United States, what happens after we put our recycling products in the bins is it's taken to the landfill. From the landfill, because some of these plastic materials are very expensive to recycle, they get shipped off to China. Over 80% of the recycling material in the United States gets shipped off to China. Why to China? It's cheaper to ship it to China to be incinerated than to deal with it in the United States. Incineration of plastic is a huge problem. It's an environmental justice problem because what we're doing in a very developed country is we're shipping off our problem and our unseemly waste to a nation that has as a source of income incineration. Incineration releases toxic materials in the air that also don't go away. So essentially we have whole villages that have been diagnosed with pulmonary diseases and cancer, and there are increased amounts of bisphenol A in the air around incineration facilities like this. We're taking our problem and passing it on somebody else. But if you look at it from a global perspective, the problem is still there. It's not one country over another. We're all sharing into this problem. So recycling doesn't work, really, and throwing away doesn't work because there is no away. So what are the alternatives? There is only one alternative that works, and that's behavior change. Last year, at our conference about global plastic pollution, we issued 4 challenges to humanity that address this behavior change. On the behalf of all the members who participated in the conference, on behalf of all the countries who share this problem, we called for behavior change from individuals, businesses, and organizations who use single-use plastic. Our call to action is refuse single-use plastic. There is absolutely no need for anyone to be using plastic materials and objects to throw away. It makes no sense. There are alternatives. Just don't do it. Refuse single-use plastic. Our second call to action to everyone has been to just make a conscious choice whenever you purchase a product that's made of plastic and understand that this is a material that will not go away. So don't reach out for it and just grab it off the shelf. Think, can I really not live with this for 450 years? Is this what I want to live to my grandchildren and their grandchildren? Or is that something I can do without? Is it possible that I can buy it made in another material? Or if you're an entrepreneur, I would ask you, put your creative powers into thinking about alternatives. Maybe you can create alternatives for